In today's episode of the Motorhome Matt podcast,
we discover a new resource for people looking to convert their own campervan.
And we answer your questions on making your motorhome gas-free, driving with a New Zealand licence and carrying a spare wheel. Welcome to the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Industry insights, expert advice for the world of motorhomes, caravans and campervans. And it's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com.
Please do remember to follow on your favourite podcast app and subscribe if you watch on YouTube. Brought to you by our friends at arabasecreative.co.uk.
Let's go into our product of the week straight away. Well, you know, it's flexible. It's a waste pipe set and it's got a cleaning brush in it. What could it be for?
Here we go. Ready? That's got stuck. Here we are. Look at this. You play with one of these, Keith. I brought out a black bag from under the desk.
Very nice.
Here he goes.
No, I can't do much with it. You used to play the trombone.
Just extend it, ready?
Send the actress to the bishop. Sorry? All right, yeah. Very nice. I tell you what I could have done with these the other night in the pub.
I'm not going to ask what you would have done with it.
I've stuck up your beer.
I see. More the point. The special little brush they come with.
Oh.
So they are wastewater pipes. You join the four of them together.
Right, so like... Yeah.
They extend each to a metre long.
If you're watching... Oh, I see, yeah. So one fits inside the other.
Yeah, you can have 4 metres of wastewater pipe joy.
You put one end into the motorhome or camper van.
That's right, onto the waste outlet.
The other end into the drain or the bucket.
That's right, yeah. And it will turn corners, go up and down.
Yeah.
Obviously, water less keen to go up.
Yeah.
And then when you're done with it, take them apart, clean them out with a brush.
Yeah.
Pack them back in your bag.
They sell these brushes that come with it in that funny shop with the blacked out windows. But I don't think they use them for waste pipes.
The one where the front door's always shut.
Oh!
Keith's putting it in his hole.
Okay, so what is it? We know what it's for. How much does it cost?
They are just $17.99 at thatleisureshop.com and use the code MotorhomeMatt, get 10% off.
Fantastic, and it all breaks down and goes into your little black bag. Make sure it's clean. You don't want in your little black bag. 10% off with the code MotorhomeMatt. It's the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
It's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com. So, who are we speaking to today then, Matt?
Well, I'm speaking with the lovely John from Bear Hug Campers. And they have created a product in response to climbing screen prices.
And what is that product?
Well, the recent show, I spoke to loads of people, and we were asking people, weren't we, what do you think of the new screen price? You know, some of them are
high,
100 grand plus, loads of money, life-changing sums of money.
Some of them you buy, you can't get insurance, can you? Because the value is so high.
Well, that's a weird thing, isn't it? I mean, if it's over 150k, we spoke to that chap. In fact, I met him at a recent show, and I think his motorhome was valued at £180,000. Couldn't insure it.
No.
Well, not for the full value. He got it insured, but he had to sacrifice. It was only, the exposure was to 150k. I'm sure that's right. So, where's the 30k going? Anyway, what John at Bear Hug has done very cleverly is in response to people coming away from shows like that and saying, you know what, I'm going to build my own. I'm going to make my own campervan. John has created an entire library of videos and guides and an ability to speak to him regularly whilst you build your own conversion, because there's loads of questions when you're making a van conversion, and I have to say I'm very passionate about if you're going to build your own, you must do it safely and you must do it compliant to keeping you alive. So the gas install, the electric install has to be done correctly. And I saw John's product and thought, this is genius. John, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you with us. John, you know that my biggest concern with self-conversions is safety and best practice, but I am intrigued. What's the most naive installation you've ever seen?
That is a very good question. I mean, as you can imagine, we've seen probably the full spectrum of things. In the workshop, we generally do full builds from an empty box. But when we help people do their own, we do see some kind of quite interesting things. One of the one that comes to mind is somebody that had installed a window on their side door and just got the measurements slightly out. and they ended up having to replace the entire side door. So that's obviously hassle and money, but it's not exactly dangerous. But when it comes to things like electrics and gas, as you can imagine, we have seen some kind of slightly off the mark installations. One of the things that's tricky is when you see kind of kits online that you can buy the kit and install. Sometimes they haven't got like the best instructions or something like that. So although somebody might install something thinking it's a kit, so it must be okay, um, something fundamental might be wrong with it. And where it really gets a bit dangerous is when you're working with the mains electric side. So with an inverter or with like the standard 3-pin plug sockets and stuff. So we've had to rectify a few of those things, and also, yeah, just get some people with some proper safety checking from some qualified engineers and things like that.
Yeah. Now, so you've built this product. Tell us a bit about the product. It's a training program that enables people to get all this good advice from you as a respected converter. What exactly is it that you've built?
So it is called the Van Conversion Training School. So hopefully it does what it says on the tin, and it is a way to formalize all the advice and training that we kind of just had been doing anyway with people into one package. So it is formed out of 3 parts. And the first part is a huge bank of content, which is video content, where we've documented how we convert one of our pro vans from start to finish, every single stage laid out and explained why you're doing it, so you can kind of understand the reasoning behind it, to make your own decisions on your van. The second part is weekly group video calls with me. So just like this on Zoom, there are a couple of times that the members can jump onto a call and ask me any questions. Quite often they're in the van with their laptop or their phone and they're pointing something out and kind of asking me things there and then. So that works quite well. And then the third part is to help kind of in between times of the calls, which is just like a private board. So you can post questions and photos and videos and things, and then other people answer. And I also keep an eye on it every day and answer questions. So those 3 things together make up the Van Conversion Training School, to help people convert their own vans to a good level, learn all the skills needed and do it safely.
And how many videos are in the library then?
I think there's maybe about 80 or so. We're constantly
Okay.
tweaking it, adding more. So maybe there's something really specific that's not in there. And somebody, like for example, somebody asked how to do a very specific lining on a door. So we went away and just recorded that video and added that to it. So yeah, I'd say around about 80. Some of them a bit more meaty than others. Like there's maybe 7 or 8 on electrics alone because it's quite a big subject and things like that.
So, does this help me understand then? So, a membership lasts for how long of this kind of subscription service? How long does it last?
So all the content and the group, so the group board is one-off payment of £480, and you get that forever. So for as long as it's around, as long as I'm around, that's you get that. And then the bit that's on a more timed basis is access to me via the group video calls. So you initially get 4 months of that within that price, and then if you want to extend that, it's £90 a month, and it's just like a rolling monthly, and then you just get that kind of full attention from me just to give you that extra helping hand.
That's quite clever because I can imagine most people set out with the best intentions. They've got the van, they probably make a start, hit a brick wall pretty quickly, as it were, a virtual one, sign
Yeah.
up to you, and then life gets in the way. And 6 months goes by before they do anything more on the van. So that means they can come back and rejoin or just extend their membership and continue getting your expertise, I presume.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly why we did it that way. So we did start off with it, the whole thing being a year, but when we were speaking to people, they said, "Oh no, I want to do it within 5 months or something like that," or "I'm going away for a couple of months in summer." So we've done it like that so that they're always in that group, so they're always kind of in the world once they've kind of joined. And if they want to take a break from the payment to access the support, they can do. And 4 or 5 months later, they can pick up tools again and get back involved, which yeah, it's definitely something people do.
So what made you launch this, John? Why did you start this member program?
So we've been converting vans professionally in the workshop, and we just ended up finding that we were answering questions from self-builders, probably hundreds a week, and we've spoken to thousands of people over the years, and we're still happy to do that. It's a really nice community, and we like chatting to people, and answering questions. And it was just so many of the same questions were coming up, that we get asked over and over again. So it just kind of sparked the idea, and I've seen this work in other industries as well, sparked the idea to basically formalize that, to give people a space to ask all those questions. And then we thought, well, why don't we document how we do everything, so that in between those questions, people can just work through things in their own time and dip in and out, if they've got a specific bit they're trying to tackle. So we spent a year filming all this, writing all this, putting all this together, and launched, and have just been tweaking it ever since. And we've got, started off with a few test clients to help build it out with us. And currently it's still only small, so we can give people a good amount of attention. There are 11 people on there at the moment, I believe. Right. People kind of coming and going, but we're now trying to give it a bit of a kick, a bit of a push, just to help out as many people as possible.
I think it's a brilliant idea. What I love about it as a marketeer myself is how scalable this is, and potentially investable as well, in terms of helping it grow. And I presume you just need more hours from you for those group sessions. And I guess it's kind of got a glass ceiling, hasn't it, really, in terms of how big this can become. So well done. I think it's a brilliant idea. And if it keeps people safe and on the right side of an electric shock, i.e. away from it, and carbon monoxide poisoning, then it has to be a good thing. Now, you have very kindly offered a great deal for people listening to this that are interested in signing up. You say that membership is £480 for 4 months. The video content is evergreen, so it lasts forever. But they can extend that month if they use the code Motorhome Matt when they sign up, and you'll give them an extra month for free worth £90. That's fantastic. John, thank you for offering that. Where do people find out more?
So if you just go to bearhugcampers, all one word, .co.uk, hopefully it should be very easy to find all the information on there. If it isn't, then I'm not doing my job right. But there is an info pack that you can just put in the name and email, and you get sent all the information in a nice looking PDF. And then from there, you just drop us a line and we'll have a quick chat to make sure we're all on the same page and hopefully get you going.
So if people quote Motorhome Matt, you'll give them a 5-month membership rather than the 4.
I will, absolutely. Yeah, promise. You heard it here.
John, that's brilliant. I wish you every success with the project. I'm certainly following it with interest, and thank you for sharing more with me about it today, and good luck.
So that's John Stuckey. He's director at Bear Hug Campers. A great idea, Matt. I must admit, I love YouTube how to do it videos that people put up, tradespeople put up, and this is sort of the same sort of thing, but with the expertise. And as you say, ticking all those boxes that you've got to tick, to comply with the law and safety.
Yeah, that's right. And safety's the big one for me. And I see conversions, and sometimes I start getting in them and having a look into them, and think, oh my goodness, this is terrible. Gas bottles floating around loose in a cupboard under the kitchen sink. I've seen lots of terrible faux pas. So what John is doing is keeping people on the straight and narrow, keeping them safe, keeping them alive, free from CO poisoning, for example, and I think it's admirable, and I take my hat off to him. It's a very clever marketing idea, which I love as a marketeer myself. And if you're in the market to build your own van, and you've seen those screen prices at the shows or in dealerships, and you think, I can't afford that, I'm going to buy a van and I'm going to convert it myself. Please do it safely, do it responsibly, and make sure you do consult an expert like John, who will build it for you, of course, or you can gain from his knowledge and expertise by subscribing to his new conversion service.
And the great thing with the subscription is you get one-to-one with him as well, don't you?
You do, absolutely, yeah. And the videos are available forever. So I think he said there's 80 videos to watch. So you can entertain yourself for years to come.
It's the Motorhome Matt podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Okay, then let's go in for our audience Q&A. We love this bit. If you're a brand new listener, what happens is listeners to the podcast get in touch with us and ask questions. And Motorhome Matt, he's the expert, will answer those questions on the podcast. And if he doesn't know, he'll find somebody that does. First of all, Kath Singleton sent us this question.
Hi, Matt. This is Kath. I was wondering if you could answer this question, please. We're looking to upgrade our campervan to one that is gas-free and its appliances only run on electricity. I'm just wondering how this would happen if you're not hooking up to an electric point each evening or each day. Be grateful for your answer, please. Thank you.
So Kath wants to know, gas-free, can it be done?
Yeah, it can be done, of course, yeah. So many of the appliances now that are used that are electric in a motorhome or campervan, Kath, are either 12 volt or 240 volt. Both, of course, can be run from batteries using inverters. So you convert the 12 volt up to 240 volt. But you would need a significant amount of battery power to do that if you're not hooking up, or solar power on the roof. So solar panels, installs like this usually come with a significant amount of solar panels on the roof. You're a big fan of those, aren't you, Keith?
A big fan of solar panels. Had them on the house for years. Love them. Saves loads of money.
Yeah, they do. It's true. So a big lithium battery installation is probably going to be what you need to look at if you're going to go for lengths of time without hooking up. Starting the engine, of course, will recharge your batteries, but it can be done. My question is, why would you want to? I'm intrigued by this because there is a big boom, it seems, and a trend for people making.
Should you be using that phrase when we're talking about gas?
What?
A big boom.
No, hopefully not. We're talking about gas-free, boomless. So I wonder why you want to. I mean, I understand there could be an environmental impact by not using a fossil fuel. But then where does your electricity come from? Is that clean and green? So I'm intrigued. If you are looking at going to a gas-free, fossil fuel-free campervan or motorhome, why are you doing it? Would you let us know? I'd love to know.
Cheers, Kath. John Pete is in New Zealand.
Hello, Matt. My name is John Pete. I'm calling from New Zealand. Look, I'm a retiree looking to come over to the UK and Europe and travel around in a motorhome for a few months. Now, I have a full licence here in New Zealand, can allow me to drive heavy vehicles, but on a normal car licence here, we can drive up to a vehicle up to 6,000 kilograms. I believe in the UK, if I was to hire or buy a vehicle over there, that would only take me up to 3,500 kilo on a normal car licence. Yet I can drive a vehicle here up to 6,000 kilo on a normal car licence. Is that applicable in the UK, or would I have to sit or get my C1 licence? As I said, I'm a retiree. I've had my licence for an awful long time. I don't know if that counts for anything over there or whether the limit of 3,500 kilo would apply to me. We're looking forward to your answer. Thank you.
This has come up before, hasn't it, Matt? So John wants to know if the licence he holds in New Zealand and the things he can do on that licence in New Zealand will apply when he comes over here. Mm-hmm. So give us the definitive answer.
So I did definitively obtain this answer. I thought I knew the answer, and I was right. I checked the gov.uk website, John, which you can do as well if you Google this. And on there it says if your licence was not issued in the EU or a designated country, the DVLA states, so that's the Driver Vehicle Licensing Authority, you can drive any category of small vehicle. So they class small vehicle as motorcycles, cars or vehicles up to 3.5 tonnes, such as vans or with 8 passenger seats. So let's assume van means motorhome in the UK on your original full valid licence for 12 months. So you can drive here on your New Zealand licence up to 3.5 tonnes. Over 12 months, you would then have to apply for a UK driving licence or an international driving permit, an IDP. It goes on to say, if you want to carry on driving in the UK after this point, you'll need to apply for a UK provisional licence and pass the UK practical test. You're not required to take any driving lessons in the UK before taking the test, but you might find it helpful to get familiar with the highway code and brush up your driving skills, which is good advice. So that is from the gov.uk website. Many people get this wrong because they assume they can drive here on their New Zealand licence, for example, and under the same terms as you can drive in New Zealand. That is not the case.
That's it. That's the definitive one, John. Sorry if that disappoints you, but it's the right answer. Paul Knox Johnson is in Whiteley. He says, hi, both quick question for you. What are the current rules for carrying a spare wheel on a camper van in the UK or abroad? Because in your car, you get these kits now which put some sort of cement into the tyre and all that.
Gel.
Yeah. Does the same apply to motorhomes?
Yeah, they increasingly don't have a spare wheel to save weight, so keeping the payload high, so you can carry more stuff, more shoes, more Keith's pants and socks. So the gel kits are really lightweight. There was a state of affairs that I understood. I think it was in Italy.
Was there a state of affairs?
There was a state
of affairs. Was it in Italy?
Yeah, I believe so.
There was a state of affairs in Italy.
It was a right mess.
Yeah.
But you had to have means of continuing your journey if you had a flat tyre.
Yeah.
So we were asked the question. It was Colin, wasn't it, who asked he said, do I need to carry the jack if I haven't got a spare wheel? And it's a really good question, because why do you need a jack if you've got the tyre gel and you haven't got a spare wheel or tyre? But in Italy, you have to carry a spare wheel and tyre and the means of changing it. But I would contend that because all these new cars that are being made across Europe, so new Fiats, you name the brand, none of them have a spare wheel. They only have tyre inflator kits. So some of them used to have the little, really thin tyre, like a temporary tyre.
Yeah, the one is sort of restricted to up to 50 kilometres an hour.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. But
But they don't even have that anymore because the boots are so small and they want the car really light, so the engine can be smaller and more efficient. So they only have the tyre gel. So if you have a blowout, you can't carry your journey because the gel's not going to fix the blowout. So Google gives up this answer that I think is incorrect. It can't be right, and I have struggled to find a definitive answer on this. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
So what's the answer?
Don't know. What was the question?
We never thought we'd hear that on the Motorhome Matt Q&A. But if you buy a camper van, do they still have the bit where you can slide the spare into, even though they're not providing the spares? Can you buy one and just you put it underneath?
No, because that's the carry frame, you mean, underneath.
Yeah.
So that's often taken off and there's a wastewater tank put there. That's why there's no spare wheel underneath.
Right.
So often a spare wheel goes in the garage. So there is no rule that I can see that says you have to carry one. Of course, if you've got the payload and the space, carrying one, I think, is a very sensible idea going around Europe. I would be very cautious about doing a trip like that without one. I'd want the means to be able to replace my tyre. I'd probably take the tyre gel. Well, I would take the tyre gel as well in case I had a little puncture. But even then, once I'd used it, I'd still want to be replacing the tyre as soon as I could. So rules to do it, laws to do it, no, not to my knowledge. Just given the way cars are manufactured these days, but I think it would be a very sensible thing to take if you can.
But in Italy, you need to have the means to change, if you don't have that.
That's what Google says, but all these cars driving around these Italian roads don't have that, and they're new.
You know what they have in Italy to put on the side of your motorhome? Go past the stripes. Oh, got it wrong. I've been practicing that for weeks.
Really? You want to practice a bit longer?
Go past the stripes. There you go. All right, then, if you want to get in touch, then, Matt.
Please do. If you've got a good check for Keith, then we'd love to hear it. Go to mhmp.info/ask Matt. Hit the orange button and record your question. We'll play it in, or fill out the form. We'll read it for you.
And if you're looking for trusted brands and services, then make sure you visit Motorhome Matt Approved. The directory is at mhmp.info/approved. mhmp.info/approved.
And if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and hit the little bell. Brought to you by arabasecreative.co.uk.